Hey everyone, it's been 2 months since you last heard from me. That doesn't mean I've disappeared and quit working on the game. It means June I was working hard, got a lot accomplished, and then I went on a 2 week almost family vacation in early July, and then the iOS 9 beta came out. So I kind of tried to crank out as much as I could to understand and get caught up with that. And now I'm at a good stopping point, so it's time to make a video. So for June, it was a lot of just fundamental stuff. Let me pull it up and show you. So this is what we're used to, and then you'll see I made universal menus throughout the game. That was a big part of it, but we'll come back to that. The key thing here is that there's 3 save files, and you can delete those save files, and you could go into the game, back out, and resume. Just, it works properly now. So we'll resume the game. You can also see the new UI. This doesn't mean it's the final UI, but it's good enough now for a beta. So I can stop thinking about UI for a little bit. I faded the map here to try to match the color palette, things like that. You can see the settings menu works just the same here. What's nice is volume control works. And I had to do that now instead of later just to make sure the composer was exporting the right thing for me. We could quit the game, but we're not gonna. The other thing that you can do now is tap on a level, you get a very similar UI, and we can replay the story for that level. I'm gonna tap to exit out of it. Or we could replay the level completely, which nothing's changed on the actual combat layer, so I'm not gonna do that right now. Going through, if we go to the camp scene, the heraldry in the top sticks now using the same code that the combat layer did. You can tap a unit to bring out their profile, tap another one. And what's cool here is that if you watch the actual units themselves, we can recruit more, and this would cost money. We can also change the amount of columns they have, and this all gets saved to the save file properly, and that will cost money as well. So just the beginning of troop management and preserving their state throughout the game. Fixed a lot of the crashing issues so that we should be able to go through all of this pretty seamlessly now. Stub scenes for the shop and the train, but basically the fundamentals. So if I want to add a new slide menu, like the settings menu, it's the same design assets. It's the same code. It's all it is actually is a callback, and the callback to a custom class handles what to do. So it's much easier. You just make the template in the designer, and then you hook it up with callbacks. Anyway, so things were going great. I had a stable game that I was starting to work on. I even got to, if we go to this level, you can pick your war machine again. So if we pick a trebuchet, it's now the 3rd unit here. I don't have the actual spawn region in this map, so it's not going to work. It's going to break, so we'll have to quit out. But you get the idea. So lots working there, and now we'll cancel out of that. Then I decided I understand how all of the fundamentals of a game work now. There's no mystery. All of that code I was able to write fast and painlessly. Now it's time to move on to the dreaded 3 months of pathfinding. And if you're not familiar with that, it's because I have units moving and walking just fine, but what I don't have is all of the edge cases taken care of. If you're facing a cliff, should you turn around directly, or do you have room to wheel? When one unit gets stuck in a tree, how does he find his group again? It's based on a leader, but now you need this guy to have his own brain to draw his path back. There's tons of edge cases like that, and to really iron out and get fundamental, solid pathfinding, that when people play the game, they just don't think it's garbage. It takes a lot of time, and it's hard, and it's annoying. All of that at the same time. So I was super happy when Apple announced that Gameplay Kit will have pathfinding, and it's turning out to be both good and bad. I'll show you. Let me bring up to where I am with it right now. I've ported a ton of code into iOS 9, so just getting up to speed was a huge amount of work. But I was excited to get to it, so I really pushed for it. So first, let me select a unit. You couldn't see when I tapped, but that took like 4 seconds for the unit to actually get selected. And that's because iOS 9 right now has a problem with nested nodes just taking forever and chugging the frame rate. So the hard part with working with the beta is, will they fix this in the final release or won't they? And do I have to refactor? So all I can do now is nothing and wait and see. And that's the annoying part. But what's cool, so I'm going to move both the yellow unit and the red unit. And you'll see there's a target placed where they're moving to. So with the map, the target's right there right now. Now if I select the yellow unit, the target's over there. It shows based on the selected unit their active command. And that was, so I had to make a command queue and start issuing through commands. And the reason for that is because when you're moving, the actual the things you can do will change. It'll be like stop, or if you're in combat, it'll be flee. You know, it's contextual. So I had to actually have an idea of what people are doing, whereas in previous builds, they just did it and executed it without the ability to stop. So that was one of the refactors I did while doing this. The other is, so each of these is now using an agent. If you're familiar with like Boids, it's basically forces are applied based on a score. You know, get to target, avoid obstacles, and each frame energy is applied to each unit to push them to where they need to go, instead of in previous builds where it's just they walk to that point directly. And the reason these systems are needed is so that things can be dynamic each frame, avoid just to make them more lifelike. The problem is things like what you see here. You see how these guys are walking in circles? It's because they're trying to get within 1 pixel of their target destination, and the force is overshooting it. So then they're overcalculating, and it needs a lot of tweaking and a lot of balance to make it feel right. So these are the kind of things I'm doing right now with the new system that iOS 9 has given out. But while it doesn't look like much, all of the code has been rewritten to an entity component system, which it wasn't before. And I'm using Apple's state machine now instead of mine. There's a ton of under the hood work that went on. And the reason I think it's worth the investment is because everything supported by Apple should perform better, it'll get new features in the future, etc. Another issue, I'm going to tap the yellow unit and move them again. Watch when they hit the corner. They go to the point and then do a direct angle turn to the next point. In previous builds in my old code, it actually calculated a curve and it made the movement look a lot smoother. When there's multiple points, it's like a zigzag. But the agent system in iOS 9, it has follow path, where path only accepts points. It doesn't accept a curve. And that's something that it's really there's nothing I can do about that. The API doesn't support it. So finding all of these, what I can do, what I can't, finding the balance of the old way and the new way, what will actually look best and feel best to the player, I'm going through all of those right now. It's just a lot. I don't know what the next step is, whether it's trying to like get people to engage in combat and see how they spread out, or if someone gets stuck, you can imagine I don't have physics on the bridge yet, but you could imagine one guy clipping the side of the bridge and getting stuck. He has to follow his people after that. So all sorts of stuff like that. It's basically going to be a boring month. I'm hoping by the end of August, just to feel rock solid about pathfinding and just have some polish and edge cases left. We will see. by then iOS 9 should be stable, so that's the plan. And then finally, what I did is work with the composer. The soundtrack is finished. I wanted to talk for people who haven't worked on like a story or soundtrack, just to see show you how the process worked for me. So let me pull up. We don't want concepts. We want these guys. Originally, we made, by we, I mean there's one other person who's I'm consulting with, and he's going to help with the trailers and stuff. Let's see if the audio plays here.
So you've met my brother, Barak?
You should be able to catch pieces of that. It's coming through the mic, though.
And what again?
It just has audio and static scenes. The final product will be a lot more polished than this, and there will be a lot more animation and texture to the art. But this is just a simple scene with fake voices laid on top, not the real voice actors. And that's for timing, to try to time out how things need to work for the composer, because it's hard. Does the composer go first and then you time the voice to that, or does the voice go first and you time to that? Because each trade is expensive to iterate with. So we had this video, and then the composer would come back with, let me just show you what that scene starts out like.
So you've met my brother, Barak? Met him, fought with him, and would again. A fine warrior, and a better man. I never knew that side of him. Only heard stories. A story like his, words only carry so much. Don't do it justice. Barak saved this kingdom. Some say it was poison. Others a thirst for power that drove the king mad those years ago. The man was brute.
So you get the idea. So now, basically, we went through scene by scene and iterated and put it into the video to get the feel of the timing. Did that for 14 or 16 scenes, and that part's done. So it was quite time consuming. So if you're working on a story and you need custom music, even though I didn't write the music, it still took time to arrange everything. Obviously, the composer put in more time than me, but it's a process. Where in the opposite, like the world map, the battle tracks, the main menu, that was more hands-off. He was able to just crank out battle music without too much oversight or work from me. So a story with voice and sound and or music and then sound effects later, it's just so much more involved than I originally thought. Word of caution. But I'm gonna see it through, and the end product, it will be super cool. Anyway, so that's where we're at. On to more pathfinding. Hopefully I have good things to report when that's done. I will see you in, I want to say 2 weeks, but it could be 4. But I'm definitely in continuing to work on the game full time. So everything's moving forward. All right, bye.